Welcome to another episode of Progress Always. Mycal Anders here. And it's always our intention to help our clients eliminate stress by prioritizing their health and creating alignment. And I have the founder of Comp ID, my homegirl. We went to high school together, Tiffany Harlan. What's going on?
That's right. 2002. We're fucking old.
We're getting there. Yeah. It's so funny that we're here right now doing this in person, because I literally just hit you up to get you on the show. And you're like, oh, by the way, we can just do it live in person because I'm going to be in town.
Somehow you had the spidey senses out and you're like, hey, let me think about, Tiffany should be on the podcast. I'm like, I'll be there tomorrow. Let's do it.
It's really serendipitous that we came together, because what you do with Comp ID has been so synergistic and helpful for our clients here at Next Level. And the fact that you were in just scale mode and the next best location was Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a very natural partnership.
I know.
And it's been awesome.
And I'm so glad that everyone's loving it and that you're able to utilize everything that we have to offer, and that we were able to open an office here in Scottsdale, although I was here for a short time period and then moved. Mm-hmm. And then, my rock star in DC was like, hey, I'll move to Scottsdale. If you want to open an office there, I'll be there. I'm like, all right, I guess we're coming back to Scottsdale.
I mean, the summer heat versus an East Coast winter, I think that's a solid trade.
Oh, totally. And I would definitely come back here if,
people
had that option, but surprise pregnancies here and there and just kind of throw things off.
I want everybody to understand where you come from and how Comp ID came to be.
Oh gosh. Well, you want the story from the very beginning? You want the story from 2014 on?
Let it rip.
Let it rip. All right, where I come from. So, come from a military family, same, similar to you.
Yeah.
We grew up military brats, moving around all over the place. Landed in Waldorf, Maryland. That's where we met.
Yep.
I was there in 2000 to 2002. Graduated high school together. That was a very, very cool time. Then went off, college, a couple places, and got into fitness. So I got into fitness and health and teaching classes and personal training and all that stuff. And around, had some babies in between. But then around 2014, I, was working with this medical group and had access to all of this medical type technology that they were using for the patients. And I said, hey, this technology would be cool for the outside, like for my personal training clients and for people that were members of my gym. And so I started Composition ID officially in 2014 when I spoke with one of the doctors and said, I know this equipment's super expensive, but could you let me use it in your office and test the market and bring my personal training clients in and bring other trainers and clients in that want to utilize it or that could, benefit from utilizing it. And let me just see if people are receptive to it. And so that's what I did in 2014. And I remember the summer of 2014, I was bringing in a ton of trainers and I was bringing a lot of people in this medical office. And I said, and I was running DEXA scans. So that was the primary service, right? That's the main thing that we offer. And DEXA is not new technology by any means. It's been around for a long, long time.
But it's not mainstream.
It wasn't mainstream then. And it's not necessarily mainstream even now, almost 10 years later. Mm-hmm. It's still, harder to get to. People are becoming more aware of it. But in 2014, no one knew what DEXA was.
Yeah.
Only medical professionals did. Hospitals did.
Prior to DEXA, the gold standard at one point, like when I was playing in college, was hydrostatic wing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I had in university too.
1,000-gallon pool.
Yeah. And at the time, actually, when I was first looking into it, I saw people started doing down south hydrostatic on a bus, on a mobile unit, and they started offering it through a mobile unit. So could you imagine
just lugging a pool around?
Yeah, lugging a hot tub, basic looking thing around on a truck in front of a CrossFit gym and dunking people.
Yeah.
And it's just invasive and you get the water and all this stuff. But they were doing that around that time in 2014. That was kind of the thing. So my original idea actually was to put it on a mobile bus and do it mobily.
Okay.
From the beginning in 2014.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, so test the market 2014 with this physician group that I was working with doing hormone optimization stuff. And and I got really good feedback. And then I started charging people for it. I put together a little website and started charging people for it. And then the doctor was like, are you going to pay me a cut? And I was like, sure, I'll give you 20%. I was like, sure, I'll pay you something like to use your equipment and your machine. So I did that. And then by the end of 2014, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to buy my own machine and put it in a gym. And I put it in a gym at that point. And then it just snowballed from there. So, DEXA was the primary service, offering it for body composition to the everyday person. That was the goal.
Yeah.
Was offering it to the everyday person where it makes sense. If you have goals and you have things that you want to achieve and you're working out and you're focusing on your nutrition or whatever you're doing, just like, let's have like a really good way of measuring it.
Yeah.
Not only is it, kind of the gold standard, of measuring body comp, but it's also the most detailed.
Yes.
It's the most data, the most information. So it's not only you're tracking, your weight, how much lean mass, fat mass, and body fat percentage for your total body. You're seeing like all these different components of your body. So everybody is different, how they change and the success or not that they see in different areas of their body. So that is really insightful. And so people got it after they did the first time. They were like, oh shit, this is really cool information. And then they would come back and do it more often, because you can't just do one. You've got to at minimum, have a second. Yeah, you've got to retest and compare, right, your progress. And so 2014 officially started it as a body core lab in DC area. And then and then continued to grow and rebranded and became Composition ID around 2015, 2016, opened an office, then built a mobile bus, then opened another office and another office. And then ended up here, we're 5-6 offices in now, and we're here in Scottsdale.
Nice.
So this is the most recent office.
Any locations on the horizon?
Honestly, no, not at the moment.
Okay.
Not at the moment.
Cool.
Kind of put a hold on the growth.
Okay.
COVID kind of, stunted us, pushed us back a little bit and then kind of rebuilt from there, which I'm happy that we have, because post-COVID, we have opened 2 new offices, Orlando and Scottsdale.
Nice.
And so just kind of giving those time to build and grow first, and then think about other opportunities. Yeah.
I think what I hear from all my mentors in business and what I've seen in specifically the micro gym space is the nail in the coffin is expanding too fast. It's like, oh, well, one location is going good, let's do 2. And then it's like, well, you don't have the systems first,
right,
and then the personnel that are committed to the vision, because if it's the Tiffany show or the Mycal show that they're showing up for, well, we can't be in 2 places at once.
Right.
So something's got to give.
Yeah.
Right. So
it was that way for a while. Okay. Actually, in the very beginning, it was definitely very much the Tiffany show. I was doing everything. Right. At the same time, I was still working up until 2015. So I had a full-time job.
You're building Comp ID with a full-time job?
With a full-time job, with 3 kids at home too. So I've got 3 babies at the house.
Holy shit.
So I'm doing all of that at the same time. And then finally I'm like, something's got to give. I got to quit the full-time job. So I was managing a gym full-time in DC.
Okay.
I've got twins. They're by the time that I stopped working full-time for that company at the gym, gosh, that was at 2015. So they were like 5, 6, 7 years old by that time period. And the other one was about 5. And then so I jumped into Comp ID full time. Right. And then that was a hustle, like first time, your first office, kind of doing your own thing, seeing the clients all by yourself. And then I had spread out at that point too. I was offering other services. Metabolic rate testing was the secondary service, and then nutrition consulting was the third one. I brought VO2 Max in a little bit later down the line. Okay. But that's kind of our suite of services are those, those 4 things.
It's so awesome. Cause when you look at, studies in longevity, obviously body composition matters, right? VO2 max testing lets you know. A
lot of data recently on VO2 max testing.
Especially in elderly populations, where it was long considered that VO2 only mattered to elite athletes.
Yeah.
Right. But now there's a direct correlation between your VO2 max and all-cause mortality. Right. So
there were some studies. I mean, gosh, you
would know better than I would.
Yeah, no. And honestly, like, I'm not as versed as I used to be in all of this. And that's another, story that we'll talk about, right? When I kind of step back from operating, running the business full time myself, and allowed my team to run the show.
Yeah.
Which is the point that I'm at now. But yes, VO2 Max, I still follow kind of, the big guys, and Peter Attia's right, one of those big ones.
Please tell me you read Outlive.
Of course, I've got the book. Okay, I haven't gotten through the full thing though. It's my fucking
Bible. It's my Bible now.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a huge book. I have it. I've
can-
sifted through it. I've read it. I haven't read it front to cover yet.
Yeah.
Like I did at one point when I first started in the fitness industry. I was like, I'm going to read the ABCs of bodybuilding. No. What's Arnold Schwarzenegger's
the
book?
Encyclopedia of
Oh, the
Bodybuilding?
Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. Yes. The Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. I read that thing from cover to cover. I was like, this is my Bible. This is what I'm going to read. And now the new Bible is like Peter Attia, like how to live longer.
It is crazy because I read the Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, which is no shit.
Oh, it's
thick,
yeah.
Cover to cover twice in show prep on a fucking treadmill. Yeah, doing my fasted cardio.
There you go. I believe that's a lot of time.
And it's just like you just have a lot of time, just you and your thoughts. You know what I'm saying? And then
it's not a bad book to read while you're on there. Sure.
I mean, it got me where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
But then after reading Outlive, it was really validating for our approach to our clients. And what I found genuinely interesting in Outlive, and he spells this out, does a really eloquent job at explaining it both at a PhD doctorate level and a third grade level.
Yeah.
With anecdotes and stories and all that kind of good stuff to drive the point home. And, how important, not necessarily physical fitness. This was really interesting to me, but stability, right? And being able to simply manage your balance with age, as we age, I should say, and essentially keeping yourself in shape enough to catch yourself when you fall. Not if you fall, but when you fall.
Yes.
Because beyond a certain point, the number one indicator of an earlier than it's supposed to be death is not the fall itself, but the recovery from the fall and or the subsequent surgery.
Or you had to have some surgery because you broke something.
Right.
And now you're trying to recover from a really intense surgery.
Yeah.
So that's one of the tests. When I was working with this medical group, that's one of the tests that we did was actually testing balance for older adults. So we would test balance by we would have them balance on one foot. And then once they were balancing on one foot, we would have them close their eyes and we would time them how long they were able to stay on one foot with their eyes closed. Once, with your eyes open, you're standing on one foot, like you've got something you can kind of, visualize or see and keep yourself stable. But when you close your eyes, it's like a whole nother world. Like they would stop very quickly. And so based on the number of seconds they were able to hold that, it showed what their age was when it came to their balance. And most were like, 70 plus, right? Because they couldn't balance with their eyes closed. And so us as the exercise physiologists, right, working with this group, what we would teach them and tell them is that, we don't want you training in the gym with your eyes closed. Don't go to the gym.
Right. That's not what this is about. Yeah.
But don't forget that balance is a component of fitness.
Yes.
We think strength, we think endurance, we think cardio and strength, and that's it. You don't think the stretching part. You don't think about the balance component of it. So don't neglect that part of it, because as we age, right, what is a danger to us? Simple things like tripping on a curb or something. If you don't have that balance, you're down and now you've just broken something. And then when you take into account, bone density loss, right? Which the DEXA measures, and we measure total body, bone density. And so osteoporosis is a huge, silent killer is what they call it. You never know, you never realize you have osteoporosis. And even DEXA is not even prescribed until people are, 60 years old plus to measure the bone density. And by that point, it's already too late. And they realize, okay, not only did I have like fragile bones, because of, life, lots of different things. And maybe I wasn't lifting. Obviously that helps to increase bone density. But now I've tripped and I've broken something and I can't recover from it. Because I didn't have the balance and I don't have the muscular strength or the endurance or the ability in my body to recover from an accident, something, so simple like that. And now you go and have this major surgery and then like
Yeah.
or at least your risk of death is much
Sure.
greater,
And
right? Because of that. So we would train.
Yeah.
I mean, we would tell people about
Mhm.
that, like how important balance was
Sure.
for sure.
And then all of that is compounded by the obesity epidemic, right? Now, not only are you lacking strength, bone
Mhm.
density, and you're heavy,
You're very heavy,
right?
yes.
There's a component of eccentric strength that's required, you know,
Mhm.
when you're about to hit the ground, that if you don't have it, or you're under considerable load for your frame,
Right.
you know, gravity always wins.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so, you know, being able to win that battle and being aware of where you're at is an incredible tool.
Right.
Right. And the fact that you've brought that to mainstream, because as far as like that suite of services, DEXA, resting metabolic rate, VO2 max, there's really only two populations prior to Comp ID, as far as I know, that those things served. You were either really fucking sick
Mhm.
or you were an elite athlete.
Mhm.
And where it really matters is the in between.
Us, the everyday people.
Yeah.
Right. That are just
Mhm.
trying to stay fit, trying to live as long as we can, and that have goals that we want to accomplish. And
Mhm.
again, just live a better, longer
Yeah.
life. And,
I mean,
and that's the trend, right? That's like the
Mhm.
cool thing right now is like everyone wants to like figure out ways, you know, to live longer and live healthier.
Yeah. And this is what was really cool about Outlive
Uh-huh.
is his focus isn't on getting to 120
Mhm.
years old. His focus is on maximizing the years that you
Being
have.
functional up
Period.
until that time period comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because none of us make it out of this thing alive. So when that moment comes, whenever it comes, like everything up to that point, were you able to max this existence out?
Right.
And that's his whole thing.
Right.
You know.
So I remember I was so inspired by one of our patients when I was working with this hormone group. And you know, don't get me wrong, like I am not against hormone optimization or any of those things. I think like do what you can,
Like
do what you need
HRT?
to do. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Testosterone replacement,
Yeah.
any type of hormone replacement,
Mhm.
therapy, peptides, you know, are
Yeah.
a big thing. Any of those things that you can like maximize. And sure, they're elective. Insurance not going to cover, unfortunately, any of those things. But if you've got, you know, the time, the attention, the money to do it and
Mhm.
invest in it, then do it
Yeah.
because that is definitely going to help. So I remember this client coming in and he's a very prominent person in the DC area. His
Mhm.
name or his family name is like on a building by the White House, like that, you know,
Yeah.
that big. And so he was, you know, he was one of our clients and I remember him coming in and at the time, oh gosh, I don't even know how old he would be today, but okay, at the time he was probably about mid 70s. So maybe
Mhm.
he's in his mid 80s by now. I don't
Yeah.
know where he is or who he is or if
Mhm.
he's still alive, but at the time he was probably mid 70s and he comes in and he's been on and you know, he was a little bit higher level. So he was growth hormone, testosterone, all of the bunch, but
Mhm.
oh, he was so functional. He was you know, he had energy, he was focused, he had muscle, he was lean,
Yeah.
he was active, he was doing
Mhm.
tennis all the time. And he came in one day for a checkup and or check-in and he was like, yeah, I had an injury in tennis and I was going to physical therapy and the physical therapist kicked me out because I recovered so quickly. Like it was so much
Wow.
shorter than what
Yeah.
they expected him to recover in, being mid 70s.
Right.
And I was
Mhm.
like, shit, like that's amazing. Like you can imagine, you know, because like you said, these accidents and things happen as we age and as we get older, and it's the recovery part of it that
Mhm.
takes longer or that could take us down completely.
Yeah.
Right. Is trying to
Mhm.
recover from an injury or
Yeah.
something like that. And he was able to recover and they kicked him out of physical therapy at 75 years old or whatever
Yeah.
age he was at that point. Because it was like, oh, you like you bounce back and you recovered
Mhm.
so quickly. Go ahead, you can play tennis and you can
Yeah.
lift. And he did all the bunch. He was still watching his nutrition then too.
Mhm.
Um
I'll tell you what, man, you know,
that was
like
amazing.
having that DEXA in our arsenal is so awesome because from a practitioner standpoint, we save so much time because that thing takes in and out 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's the most accurate thing out there versus if you're really good, and I'm talking about thousands of reps of skinfold
Of
calipers,
skinfolds, right.
right? And even then, you're
You're not getting visceral fat. You're not getting bone
you're still
density.
plus or minus
Plus or minus.
2 to
Yeah.
5%,
Right.
depending on
Right.
who's doing it.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah. The leaner you are, the margins, you know, a little
right?
slimmer.
So you know, the fact that we're able to see get a picture, a bigger picture, a more complete picture of what's going on with our clients, right? Why, you know, we put that you got to start with a protocol, right? And then like, that's the guess. And then you adapt, you pivot, you streamline, you optimize over time. And having that DEXA in our back pocket with Comp ID allows us to just make that process so much faster.
Totally. And that's like, was the premise. And it gets me excited even thinking about it again, because and talking about this, because that was the whole goal with offering it to the public, was like, we waste so much time, so much money, so much energy in trying to figure out what's working for us.
Yeah.
What to do. And then we do it for whatever time period.
Yeah.
And then what are we using? Like, we're using a scale at home, or we're thinking about, you know, maybe our clothes fitting, or maybe we're doing photos or this, that, but we're not getting like the full spectrum of the data and what's actually, you know, our measurements. And so sure, it's scary at first to get this many numbers on your body, but it makes so much sense once you know, get your baseline, right? And then do whatever you're doing. There's not necessarily one protocol that's going to work for everyone, but do whatever you're doing with whomever you're working with. Do the work, and then get remeasured. And then you see, did it work? Did it not work to my favor? And then as a professional, you're like, okay, you know, you lost some fat, you gained some muscle. We're on the right track.
That's right.
This is great.
Yeah.
Or you lost some fat and you lost some muscle. All right, let's increase our protein. Let's see what we can do to make sure that you're not continuing to lose lean mass. Or you didn't have any progress at all.
Yeah.
Let's look back.
To the drawing board.
You know, like back to the drawing board. It didn't work. All right. How compliant were you? How, you know, much sleep? Are you stressed? Like, all these other components that you start to think about, and you start to piece together that puzzle. Like, what actually happened between point A and point B? Let's figure that out. Because again, it's just data, right? That point B is just data. Figure out whatever happened in between. Yeah. And then be able to like move from there and move forward and use that to like go into the next phase, go into the next thing. And it's just validation, right?
What I find from a coach client perspective to be the most advantageous use of Comp ID is navigating the nutrition conversation, right? Because we live in this obnoxious diet culture. I just did a post today that like blew up. You know, if you prioritize your protein the way that you're supposed to, you'd be too full for the garbage that you eat, and you'd start seeing some fucking results. Sure. Right. Because another thing that Peter Attia talks about in Outlive is we are overnourished and under, under conditioned or something to that effect, where, you know, we eat too much and we don't train enough. You know, is essentially what he's getting at. And what's really interesting when we're shifting that perspective and we're addressing the stress with our clients at first, a lot of that is simply their relationship with food, right? And when we can get that hard data, we can overcome the fear of numbers with our clients. And then we can show them, okay, the scale is a metric. It is not the metric. And based on, you know, all of those variables, protein, caloric intake, rest and recovery, hydration, training methodology, you know, we're able to paint that picture. It's like, well, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, right? Because it's counterintuitive. And also at the same time, you know, we're so married to the number on the scale, we completely ignore the fact that our numbers in the gym or our performance is improving, our clothes are fitting better, we are standing taller, we present with more confidence, right? And then all of a sudden, the scale, like, so all of those things are happening. And then it's like, okay, they come in for the session and they're like, oh, the scale hasn't moved. It's like, wait a minute, we just talked about all these great things that are happening. It's like none of that shit matters because the scale hasn't moved. Well, then we show them the data. It's like, well, you're adding muscle, and you know this, everybody's fucking different. You know, some people are going to lose fat first prior to putting on muscle. And then others are going to put on muscle first before their metabolism kicks in and they start burning fat.
Are they going to do both at the same time and their scale is never going to change?
Right.
I went through a time period where I did a test on myself and I didn't lose weight at all, but I had like lost 5 pounds of fat and gained 5 pounds of muscle. Okay, cool.
Right.
The scale's not going to tell me that.
Exactly.
But my body comp changed and I had positive progress.
Right.
And then on the same, like in that same theme, one time I was like super stressed and not working out as much and not eating as much. And I dropped 10 pounds and I'm like, oh, I feel good. Like I dropped 10 pounds, my clothes are fitting, I was wearing a little bit smaller size, but then I was just like, I had lost all my lean muscle.
Yeah.
I lost 10 pounds of lean muscle. So actually my body fat went up.
Yeah.
But because I lost 10 total pounds, I actually was feeling smaller, but then I was like more skinny fat than I was to begin with.
Yep.
And actually that was more detrimental to my health
for sure
at the time, was losing 10 pounds of lean muscle, because then what happens then? Then your metabolism decreases. And then when you start eating again, because I wasn't eating that much at the time, you start eating again, you gain back fat very quickly because your metabolism would decrease. And then I start eating normal portions again. And then all of a sudden I'm gaining weight, right? That's such a bad cycle. So obviously I've been doing this for a long time. So I've even tested myself multiple times. I'm a serial, I used to be a serial program hopper and like, let me use myself as a guinea pig for this and that, and figuring out what works. And sometimes that's what it takes, right? Is that trial and error for someone. And I think I'm all for trial and error for anybody. Like,
I wish more people would embrace that. You know what I mean? Because
totally.
it's like,
it doesn't need to be one thing, one prescription. Right. And that's what you guys do too. It's like you customize it based. You don't have one formula that's like everyone has to follow this, because that doesn't work at the end of the day. That's not sustainable. It's not long term. And that's what people see, I think, in a lot of this diet culture. Yeah. Right. You think I need to be in this box and I need to follow this thing this way. But then when you get off track, what happens? You don't know what to do with yourself, or you start gaining weight all of a sudden. Like, oh, fuck. Exactly. That doesn't work. How do I live life this way? Right.
What's also interesting is like, coming back to that diet culture thing, like these extreme weight loss methodologies, what's the new one out? What's the big craze right now? Optavia. We actually we work with a lot of veterans and active duty military personnel as well. And even in military medicine, they're trying to solve these problems for unfit.
Right. By having some prescription, just like, just do this.
Just take a pill.
Right. They try to make a simple spot. Right.
The one I just got hip to was phentamine.
Oh, that's an old one though. Yeah. You just said,
it's the pH in fen-phen.
That's a stimulant. Yeah. No, the newest one is the Ozempic stuff, but
Ozempic, that's the one.
Yeah.
And going back to Peter Attia, man, I'm telling you, outlives my new Bible. He talks about how in those extreme caloric deficit programs, 2/3 of the weight lost is lean tissue.
Okay. Let me be super transparent.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know that I've ever like really talked about or told anyone about this, but I needed some help after my last pregnancy. I mean, I was here when I got pregnant. Super surprised.
We were crushing it.
Right? We were training. And then I went off to Mexico for the summer and gained a shitload of weight because I was like, let myself go afterwards because I didn't train anymore after we were training together. I gained 60 pounds that pregnancy. I gained a lot of weight. And it was a combination of a lot of things, combination of, psychological things, kind of giving up. And it was a surprise. It was 11 years between my, youngest at the time and this baby. Like, it's big, it was a big change.
She's beautiful, by the way.
So, and she's amazing. Yeah. She's turning 2 this week, actually. She'll be 2 on Friday.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
You've been gone that long?
I know.
We miss you around here.
I know. I miss it. But now I come back often. Well, now you have your spidey senses, so every time that I come back.
I know. I can feel it. Tiffany must be on the way.
It's been a couple months. All right, Tiffany's coming back.
So bouncing back.
So all right, so bouncing back. So after I had her, gosh, I felt disgusting and gross. Honestly, I felt horrible. At her, I was off. I had derailed everything. And right before her, I had gotten in the best shape of my life and I was feeling so good. We had moved here to Scottsdale. I was feeling good about, I joined the football team. I was feeling good about training with you, reconnecting with you, training here at the gym. Like I was feeling so good and so motivated to get myself back into like a regular routine and feel good about building and having a community and the leadership forum and all of this. And then I got pregnant and then I was just like, it blew up all of that, honestly.
Yeah.
And not that it needed to, but just my mind, where I was going and my motivation and what I thought life was going to be just changed completely.
180.
Yeah. So then, for lack of a better term, I feel like I gave up on myself. I gave up on all that momentum. I gave up on all that motivation to do everything, motivation to grow the business more, motivation to, participate in sport, motivation to, I mean, obviously I couldn't play. They wouldn't let me play anymore on the team because I was pregnant. So I can't get tackled. Right. But I was so looking forward to that. That was so amazing being part of a women's professional football team here. Like I was so like looking forward to that and training with you. So you were training me on it as well. And then just psychologically, mentally, I just gave up. So then I went through that rest of that year, and then, we moved from here, we moved back to Maryland, and I wanted to be closer to family. I wanted some more support there.
Yeah.
And so we made that decision. When I moved back, I was just busy, getting ready for the baby, moving back east, and had her in October of 21. And then, I was like, okay, let me give myself some grace. Let's go through the holidays, whatever, but I had gained so much weight. I was at the heaviest I'd ever been.
Ever.
I was like 215, like sitting at 215, like just normal. Like after I had the baby, I was like 230 and I lost 10, 15 pounds after her.
Yeah.
Like, just having her. And I was like, wait a second. I was supposed to lose like 30 or 40, like right off the bat. No, it was not coming off.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. It was not coming off. And I felt horrible. And so by the end of that year, I remember it was December, and obviously I'm making my New Year's resolutions, and I'm like, okay, like I need to get my shit together. Like I need to, if I don't like get on top of this now, then I'm going to get into a comfort zone, or I'm going to let myself go more. Like it was like a path. Like I was like, either I need to like get my shit together and focus, or just accept and be happy where I was. And like, that was like the
knowing
moment.
You, like I know you, B was not an option. Like the fact that you even entertain that blows my mind right now. Whoa.
And I knew that was an option, right?
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, these are my only two. So which one am I going to pick? Of course I'm going to pick. Okay. So I need to get my shit together and do the work, right?
Yeah.
So then I was like, all right, 2022. I'm like, all right, I gave myself, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, post baby. Like I need to get my shit together. So I went back to my doctor, who is a good friend of mine as well. But, I went back to my doctor. I'm like, get me on the hormones again. Like, let's figure this out. Like, get me on the peptides, get me on the hormones, like whatever you have, whatever you need. And she was like, oh, this new thing is epic.
No shit.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
And she was like, she gave me a pen. She had a free pen or whatever, or she had samples, and it was just kind of coming out or just becoming big, at the time. And she gave me a pen. She's like, do this. And I was like, well, this doesn't go through insurance. So after my first pen, what is it? And then I asked the pharmacy how much. It was like $900 or like something ridiculous. I'm like,
a month?
Yeah. For one pen that, I guess it lasts.
I don't even know how it's delivered.
It's an injection, right? It's a pen, and then you like do clicks, and then you inject it in your stomach. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you inject it in your stomach. And there's certain dosage, you kind of like work your way up. So the first month, maybe, it doesn't work, whatever. And then, it takes some time to kind of ramp up, and there's a certain dosing schedule and things like that. But she put me on it, and I was like, okay, and I'm thinking positively, like, okay, well, it's not going to hurt. It'll help. Yeah. Right. And then I started reading more and researching. I just trusted her. I was like, I didn't really know that much about it at the time, but it suppresses your appetite, kind of slows digestion, things like that, so that you don't overeat, you don't eat as much. And a lot of people
suppresses your ghrelin.
Yes.
And what's your appetite suppressant hormone?
Yeah, ghrelin. Exactly. That's it. Yeah, like your hunger signal. Your hunger signal. Okay. Yeah. But it also slows like the actual emptying of your stomach, like so that you feel full longer.
Oh shit. So
you can't actually like eat more or overeat because you just feel full and you're like, okay, I'm done. And if you feel so full, sometimes people feel nauseous.
Right.
So if they overeat, they would like throw up or they'd feel super nauseous. So it would like prohibit them from actually overeating, and it would suppress that.
Two things.
So for me, it didn't do that. I could still eat as much, whatever. But for me, I definitely noticed I noticed a mental shift as far as like being indifferent towards food. So I noticed a psychological component to it right on.
This is a problem.
Me knowing then this is a problem, right? Because a lot of people then they just stop eating,
right?
Or they eat very, very little because they're not thinking about food and they're not hungry.
Can you imagine if you didn't come out of this industry, like if you weren't aware of what's going on in real time?
And that's the exact point that I'm making, is that a lot of people that are using this are using it in the wrong way, or not being trained in the right way, or not being taught, whatever it is, they're not being educated on the right way to utilize something like this.
Right.
They're being prescribed as a quick fix. They're losing a ton of weight. Everybody wants to get on it. And then it's that's how it's working and snowballing.
Yeah.
So I did it, and knowing what I know, I was like, well, I can't starve myself.
Right.
Sure, I'm going to lose weight, but I'm going to actually use it to my benefit and say, okay, I'm not thinking about food. I'm not overeating. Let me eat healthier. Healthy. I hate the term healthy.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let me eat in a way where I'm actually, you know, tracking my food. And then I started working with my coach, who I love, and he's amazing. And I said, you know, prescribing my meals, like, let's do, you know, this one-on-one coaching again. And so then I started working with him. And so I knew I was eating enough protein. I was eating like, you know, usually the diet's more of like a lower fat, high protein type diet, kind of moderate carbs. And I was just following my meal plans and doing that. And I was losing weight and I was losing fat and I wasn't losing lean muscle.
Right.
Because I was also lifting.
Yes.
I was always working out. I always loved and I always enjoyed working out. So I made sure that that was happening too.
Yeah.
So was I eating less than I was before? Sure, because I was eating like whole foods, high protein, low fat type diet.
Right.
So yes, overall, I was eating less, but I wasn't starving myself.
Right.
So I wasn't losing all lean muscle during the time that I lost. And I literally went from 215 after I was done my leanest, after months of working with my coach, I got down to 138.
Woo!
Actually, 135 was my lowest, but 138.
Net from delivery day to 135, 130.
Yeah. Say 135.
Net 100 pounds in how long?
In a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And how long was Ozempic part of the equation?
It was more hardcore through the summer. So I started really doing around March 2022, and I had a goal. I had a goal of September. Our reunion. Remember, our reunion was October of that year.
Yep.
So I had a goal of September because I had a photo shoot scheduled. And the reason I did this photo shoot, and it was like, you know, it is for this really great photographer in the Virginia area, and she does the Skin Series. And I said, and Skin Series was telling the stories of women's bodies and what they went through and everything, and this whole interview process and things like that. And I had interviewed with her actually at the end of that year, December, knowing that in 2022 I was going to make this change. And I said, no matter what, I'm going to do this photo shoot. And part of the motivation behind it was like, because I know that I visualize. I said, I know I'm going to lose this weight again. I want to feel the best that I'm going to feel. But wherever I'm at, by the time it's September, that's the point that I'm going to accept where my body is, because I know I will have known that I put in the work at least to get there. And that would have been the almost 1 year mark of having Lucia, of my baby. So I was like, okay, let me give myself time. Let me get to that 1 year mark basically with her. And I was like, I know it's achievable. I know it's attainable. Like, you know, obviously I know being in the industry, like it wasn't outside of what I could accomplish and do.
Realistic.
And I didn't get to 135 by that point, but my goal at that point was like 155. Like I wanted to be at 155, 215 to 155 within that, you know, March time period down to September, the end of September.
Okay.
And I did it. And I did it through, you know, obviously watching my nutrition, you know, eating in a way that was conducive to losing body fat. I lifted, I worked out very regularly. I actually didn't do that much cardio at all. I just focused on weight training.
Crazy, right?
I obviously, you know, and I was losing weight on a regular basis. I even went on vacations and things through the summer, and I was still, you know, dropping weight. And so by the end of September, I did that photo shoot feeling amazing and comfortable and confident in my body.
Great. I
and
remember
that was
it.
the main thing.
Yeah.
And then a couple of weeks later was our reunion. I said, I want to feel good for our 20-year high school reunion.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I said, I want to feel good for that as well. And so that was, you know, that was part of it. And so by that point, going back to, you know, the medication. So, I was on Ozempic for that period of time, continued to be on that period of time, and kind of like once a week. So around 6 months or so. And then I started doing kind of maintenance doses for a few months after that, where I would just kind of like do a once a week kind of maintenance thing. So I didn't want to fall back. But again, for me, I think it was more of a psychological thing. So I continued to work after our reunion. So I was like, okay, I was feeling good and where I was. So I was like, let me see how to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
So then I took it to the next level and I still lost another 20 pounds. I got to 18% body fat was the lowest that I got. And that was earlier this year in 2023.
So tell me about, here's my concern with the whole thing. You seem to have managed to put yourself into a very sophisticated protocol where you did the thing, you got to where you wanted to go, and you weaned yourself off. and along the way reframed and reshifted your habits and your behaviors to be in alignment with that 18% lifestyle.
Yep.
Right. We just had a conversation today with a client who is in danger of being a non-promote. She's active duty military and is overweight. The doctor says, hey, take this phentamine and it's really about it, you know?
And they really don't, they don't give them a protocol.
So
they don't tell them what you should do, how to maximize actually being on it.
What that empowers is a reliance upon
the medication.
The medication, as opposed to, okay, at a certain point, my metabolism should have kicked back on. I'm lifting, I'm eating correctly for where I'm trying to go, all those things, so that when the medication goes away, I'm no longer reliant upon it and I have the tools to move it forward. Right. Since you're side by side, the medical side of things, why is that not happening?
It's the education of it.
Why is your process not normal?
Because I know better. Because I know so much about nutrition, exercise, and I know better to not just depend on one thing and think that that's the quick fix and that's the work, but that's not majority of our population. You know? The majority of our population with anything, again, going back to diet culture, is like, we want the quick fix. So this is the fix right now. It's the phentermine, it's the Ozempic, it's the Mounjaros, it's everything's the quick fix like that. Okay, that's going to solve my problem. I don't need to do anything else. All I need to do is take this medication and it's just magically going to make me not eat. And because I'm not eating, I'm going to lose a lot of weight and I'm going to feel good now because I've lost all this weight. But then what happens when you get off it?
Right.
You didn't actually develop the skills and the habits necessary to
really
maintain
haven't changed shit
where you were. So going back to your point, I'm not on it anymore, but I've been able to maintain. And because I did use it as a tool, and that's the key. And I think I like the way that you use that and you framed it as a tool, because that's exactly what it is. It's not the thing. It's not the magic pill. It's literally a tool, and you have to know how to piece. And I actually commented, I think it was one of Peter Attia things too, or one of those that showed a study on Ozempic and this and that. And I actually commented and I said, I did it and I maintained my lean muscle.
Yeah.
And I lost 40 pounds. And at that point, 40 pounds of straight fat validated by DEXA.
Yeah. And
I was like, because I just ate a lean high protein diet. I worked out and lifted the whole time to make sure that I was maintaining my muscle, eating enough protein. Right. And I use that as a tool to just psychologically, I wasn't overeating. I wasn't craving other foods. And I was like, okay, so now I'm used to eating these whole foods and I'm used to eating basic, relatively basic things, but within, I was used to moderating things and continuing my training. And that's what worked to actually shape my body composition and also my mind. And then by that point, I did it so long, month over month, that I knew how to maintain and I knew what my body liked and didn't like by that time period. So once I got off it, it was very easy to just keep that maintenance. I mean, okay, since my lowest earlier this year, I'm an extra 10 pounds up. So now I'm at 145 or so. But again, still like I maintain, now I do life. Yeah. So before I wasn't drinking, I wasn't eating whatever I want, whatever. And now like I focus and I know my day needs to be protein focused. So I prioritize that first. Yeah. I know that if I'm going to drink or have a heavier meal in the evening, I try to, slim it down earlier in the day. Yep. Right. Like I know these kind of things and I do these internal hacks because I know just not to overeat all the time. Yeah. And I always am consistent with my training with as much travel as I do and as much movement and everything. Like my training does not stop no matter what. And my training prioritizes heavy lifting and doesn't prioritize cardio. If I can get cardio in, then that's great. But if not, it doesn't matter. If I've only got time for lifting, then that's what I do. Yeah. And I listened to your postpartum journey and it's very akin to show prep in bodybuilding. It really is. Right. When you talk about, well, since I do life now, I'm up another 10 pounds, what I tell my competitors is where I feel like you could sustainably live like
that lean lifestyle, still go out, have a drink or two, is about 8 to 10 weeks out from the show. You still look great, you feel great, and you can still eat all the things that you want.
Right.
You know, moderate with, treats and shit in moderation, and keep alcohol introduced into your lifestyle. Right. You can do that.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's just kind of a natural. Yeah. It makes so much sense. So,
shoulder veins and all that shit. Anything beyond 8 to 10 weeks, depending on the individual, you start to creep into the realm of unsustainable, right? Because now it's too strict to maintain without locking yourself in a room,
right,
and like becoming a hermit.
Yeah.
So take into consideration our necessity for connection and being able to be around friends and family and indulge without feeling guilty, right? It like that's where you're at now.
Right. Exactly. Right? And I knew that it took some sacrifice, right? Like
you pushed
in
it
the beginning. And I think, and I'm all for this with a lot of people, especially starting programs, is like, yes, I'm such like an all or nothing attitude. And I know it's really bad, but especially in the beginning, it's really motivating. It's really nice to see success in the beginning. Like you want to feel that and you want to have that momentum and like keep going. And so I'm all for like, yes, see that success, sacrifice, right? Say no to the dinners out, say no to the alcohol and all this stuff. Get to where you want to be, or get to a good point where now you feel like you can balance those other things. So I did, and I got there, and I got down to 135 and 18% body fat. And that was like very small and very lean for me, but I knew that I wanted some buffer. I'm like, okay, when I go back to real life, at least I've got some buffer, right? And I feel good where I'm at. Don't get me wrong. I'm like, oh, maybe I could be like around 5 pounds less, whatever. But like, again, it's just that mental psychology. We're always battling with ourselves, like, what's optimal, what's not, right? But I have to give myself some grace and some credit that it's been 6 months plus now that I've literally done whatever the hell I wanted to do. And I've been maintaining within this kind of 7 to 10 pounds of my lowest. And I eat out, I drink, I go, and I do what I want in moderation, and I continue to train, and I've been able to kind of maintain this lifestyle. And so it feels good, and it feels super empowering being at this place now.
Yeah.
But not to say it didn't take work.
Sure.
You've got to work. You've got to put in, especially if you had as much that I had to lose. I had to put in the work to get to where I wanted to go. And then I can loosen up and I can, shift focus a little bit. But
another one of our clients, I went to high school with. He graduated before you came to Westlake, but he actually just posted a picture on Facebook, of a before and after. And he looks fucking great. And I chimed in the comments, and I was like, this is before and forever.
Yeah.
That's what we're after. You know what I'm saying? Is, we're going to install these habits, these behaviors, this lifestyle realignment so that wherever it is you're trying to go, we can get you there and you can stay there.
Yeah.
We're not in the business of, getting hot for the wedding or hot girl summer or whatever. It's like, why can't you just be hot and feel good in your own skin all day, every day?
All day, every day.
It's not fucking impossible.
And just sit in that and feel like, oh shit, I feel good. Like I never want to go back. And that's like that, personally, that's like the mindset and the position that I'm in. I'm like, I feel like I lost it. I gained it. And then now I've lost it again. I'm like, I don't want to go through a year. I don't want to do that freaking work again. And like hustle and just like, grind that much again. Like, I just want to maintain life now. And
so here's a question for people that don't have our education and experience, and people that don't necessarily have the means, right? Let's just call it what it is. Have the means to invest in coaching and nutrition protocols and monthly DEXAs and like all the things, right? What's your advice for somebody who knows nothing about nothing and just knows where they are could be a whole lot fucking better?
There's so much information out there online now. It's just a matter of finding, right, the right ones to kind of follow and stand behind. But in my perspective, and I'm sure you can agree, Peter Attia being a big one, Huberman being a big one, BioLane, Lane Norton is a great one. Oh gosh, there's another guy out of Florida too that's really, really good.
Cressy.
Research based. No, oh gosh, I can't think of his name right now. But there are some really, really good people to follow that have studies and that literally like don't prescribe to any bullshit. They're just like, these are the basics. This is what it is. And at the end of the day, I think what's proven is prioritize strength training, prioritize protein in your diet, watch your caloric intake, don't overeat. So if you need to track at first, then track, see how much you're eating, because people overestimate, very naturally, or underestimate how much they're eating. And, and if you can, like you said, if you do have the means, a coach always helps. So working with you guys or working with whomever. Nowadays, there's so many coaches out there, and you have to be mindful of who you choose and what they prescribe to. But I would say stay away from the zealots, like the ones that are just like gung ho about any one particular thing.
Thank you.
Like that's the key, is just don't go for one that's just like preaching one specific thing, because then okay, that's a red flag. Right.
Expand on that.
Expand on that. Kind of follow, a few good people.
Dive into that, because that's something that I wholeheartedly believe in. That if you're married to your dogma, you're inhibiting your ability to operate from a place of principle. Right. So when you say a red flag is, a zealot or somebody that is wholeheartedly invested in one specific protocol, why is that dangerous?
It's dangerous because then you don't think for yourself. You never actually learn anything. You're just being told what to do. And then what happens when that person leads you either down the wrong path, because you're so entrusted in them that you're going to follow whatever they do, whatever they prescribe, or what happens when like they're not there anymore. But I think the main thing is just giving false information, actually, then going down the wrong path of what's actually, beneficial to yourself and your health, and then not actually learning anything at the end of the day. So I think we all need to be educated on these things. And the only way that we can really be like holistically educated is understanding that there are lots of people with different point of views, and finding the ones that are, that don't have one particular set point of view, but you can view them and you can follow them and see them, but understand that's not the end all be all.
Right.
Just keep that in mind, and look at everything. Right. And it's the same thing with anything in life, right? With news, with anything. It's just like, don't prescribe to any one thing. Just keep your mind open that there are other ways and other resources and other people out there that will give you really good information. And at the end of the day, when it comes to nutrition, exercise, there's so much like science-based stuff out there, but even that is sometimes tough to sift through. The
metadata, I like Lane Norton's approach in terms of if there's anything that could be subscribed to, it's based on metadata, which is a compilation of all the research on a particular thing.
Right. Because you can have one study that tells you X, Y, and Z that was super successful in one particular thing, but
and this is what happens.
It's like, because this study, and then that's what's marketed, and that's what's like touted out there, is because one study proved one thing. With however the study was put together. So I mean, as much as research-based things that you can get a hold of and read and be exposed to is good. And again, that's kind of those big names that are out there now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I am so grateful that you showed up almost on call. But it was
totally on call. You're like,
serendipity is the thing.
Podcast. I was like, I'll be there tomorrow.
And I really appreciate just your perspective and your outlook, and the validity that you bring to the equation with all that's offered through Comp ID. And that being said, I know you got multiple locations and all that, and for the fortunate few as you continue to scale, but for the here and now, where can everybody find you in Comp ID?
Well, the website's compositionid.com. Our Instagram, our main Instagram is composition ID, or composition _ ID. Oh my gosh.
Underscore.
You know this. Yeah. It's _ ID. And then we have locational ones, but you can find that off of our main composition _ ID. Instagram, and that's the one that we're the most kind of active on is
Okay.
Instagram, just in general,
Yeah.
and through the website. And so we have locations in DC, downtown DC, are the locations of Tyson Corner,
Mhm.
Virginia. We have a location, kind of a remote location based out at the University of Maryland.
Nice.
We've got a mobile bus around the DC, Maryland area that sees primarily a lot of the sports teams. So we go out with the mobile bus. We've got a DEXA installed on the mobile bus, and we see the Washington Caps regularly. We see the Wizards regularly, the Mystics, Georgetown University, a couple other universities. But we also see CrossFit gyms and other providers around the area. And then we've got a location in Orlando. I've got a licensee out in Houston that's still operating. And then we've got this one here in Scottsdale. So we've got kind of a mix of locations around.
I love it. Yeah. Well, I wish you nothing but success as you continue to scale and build more locations. I'm excited to watch the growth. It's been really cool to see from afar, and having you in our backyard from time to time and supporting Next Level and our clients has been extremely powerful. Of course. So thank you.
I love that you're here and that you're in this industry and that we have all of this in common, being us military brats connecting in high school and it's reconnecting now, and just being able to share all this cool knowledge and
universe,
everything.
Man.
Yeah, I know. It is. See, syncs up.
That's it. So for everybody out there listening, take a look at the show notes. We got some really cool sponsorships, sponsors, and partners supporting Progress Always and Next Level. So take advantage of what's available there. And remember, if you want progress always, you just got to do 3 things: keep your promises, do hard things, and make yourself proud. Until next time, Progress Always.